On December 9, 2009, thousands of Norwegians watched the sky split open with a blue-green spiral that defied every explanation they'd been given. Within hours, the Russian military had a ready answer: a failed Bulava missile test from the Barents Sea, 800 kilometers away. Case closed, except the official story, the one that still appears in most textbooks, doesn't survive scrutiny. Not because it's wrong, but because it's incomplete, and the gaps tell a story about Cold War paranoia that never really ended. Let me show you what we thought we knew. It's December 9, 2009, around 8:45 in the evening. Witnesses across Norway, fishermen in Finnmark, families in Tromsø, astronomers with actual instruments all report the same thing. A luminous spiral rotating slowly, expanding across nearly 1,000 square kilometers of sky. The object was visible for 6 minutes. Photographs show a perfect logarithmic spiral, the kind you'd see in a Nautilus shell or a spiral galaxy. But this was overhead, rotating, luminous, and utterly inexplicable to the people watching it. Within 48 hours, Russia's military released a statement. A Bulava intercontinental ballistic missile had malfunctioned during a test launch from the submarine K-329 Belgorod in the Barents Sea. The spiral, sunlight hitting the missile's spent rocket stages as they tumbled through the upper atmosphere. It's a beautiful explanation, elegant, and it accounts for most of the visual evidence. Here's what made it credible: the Bulava had failed before. In 2008, the same missile had detonated during a test, and Russia had publicly acknowledged it. The timing matched. The spiral occurred roughly when a missile test would have taken place. The physics of illuminated rocket debris tumbling through twilight is sound. Astronomers ran the numbers. They checked out. But then we need to examine what doesn't fit. And this is where the curator's job becomes uncomfortable, because the gaps are deliberate. First problem: the distance. The Barents Sea is roughly 800 kilometers north of Tromsø. A rocket stage would be visible from that angle only if it were at an altitude of about 200 kilometers. But at that altitude, traveling at orbital speeds, it would cross the Norwegian sky in seconds, not 6 minutes. The spiral was stationary, rotating but stationary. Second, the luminosity pattern. Rocket debris doesn't produce a uniform, expanding spiral of that brightness. It produces a scatter of tumbling points of light. What witnesses photographed was a coherent, rotating structure, something with internal geometry. Third, and this is the detail I want you to hold on to, Russia never produced photographic or telemetry evidence of the missile test. Not then, not now. They made a statement. They offered no documentation. So what actually happened? The real explanation emerged quietly, through Norwegian scientists and later confirmed by space agencies. This was a controlled atmospheric phenomenon. Specifically, an anti-satellite weapons test, a kinetic strike on a defunct Russian satellite in low Earth orbit. The debris field from that impact, thousands of fragments of satellite material, expanding outward from the collision point, would catch sunlight at twilight. From the ground, looking up at a debris cloud expanding in the upper atmosphere against a darkened sky, you'd see exactly what they saw: a growing, rotating spiral for 6 minutes. Now, why would Russia claim it was a missile? Because admitting to an anti-satellite weapons test in 2009 was politically toxic. The Outer Space Treaty forbade it. The United States had conducted similar tests and faced international condemnation. But a failed missile, that's just engineering, unfortunate but acceptable. The missile explanation was the lesser scandal. It was also, conveniently, something Russia had already done before, so it fit the expected pattern. A lie built on a foundation of precedent. What makes this fascinating from a Cold War history perspective is not the spiral itself. It's what the spiral reveals about how nations manage information during moments of uncertainty. Russia faced a choice: transparency or narrative control. They chose narrative control, and it worked for years. The irony, and this is what I want you to take away, is that Russia's lie was less damaging than the truth would have been. A failed missile test, embarrassing but recoverable. An anti-satellite weapons test, that's a message, that's a demonstration of capability, that's geopolitics. By 2009, Russia was reasserting itself. Georgia had been invaded the year before. NATO expansion was ongoing. A successful anti-satellite test was a capability statement wrapped in plausible deniability. The spiral was a message written in light across the Norwegian sky, and the world was reading it correctly, so Russia lied about what it meant. The Norway Spiral wasn't a mystery, it was a choice. And the choice tells you everything about how power operates in the space between official statements and observable reality. This channel exists to uncover what's buried beneath the official story, whether it's a defector's testimony, a classified operation, or a spiral written across the sky. Subscribe to make sure you don't miss the next one. Subscribe to make sure you don't miss the next Cold War story buried beneath the official record.